What's up, y'all? Winnie here, and welcome back to the SCP Foundation Wiki. This episode was supposed to happen last week, but for various reasons, didn't. And it's not supposed to happen this week, but for various reasons, will. So, this episode, we're going to be reading Dr. Wondertainment's Custom Pets, Repeating House, The Dog Who Loves Close-Ups, Dr. Wondertainment's Shadow Paint Playset, and The Damaged Fellowship. The italics implies that it's the book The Fellowship of the Ring. There also are allegedly two entries with animals. This one is probably not about House the TV show. So let's start with the Dr. Wondertainment, and people who've been watching these for a while know that I put on a voice for these, and I wanted to make sure that I can actually do it. But I don't put on the voice until the point where it's necessary. All adult SCP-1550 specimens are to be contained in a sealed 5 by 5 by 5 meter terrarium simulating desert conditions, under electronic surveillance, and implanted with tracking devices. In the event of an escape, the affected sector will be locked down until all specimens have been recaptured. The eggs are to be kept in their airtight packaging apart from in testing. So are they reptiles then? The total population of 1550 adults is not to exceed 20 at at a time, with further specimens being terminated and their corpses incinerated. All testing must be approved by level 3 staff or higher. All contained instances of 1550 discovered must be immediately killed on sight. Description: Item SCP-1550 is an apparently artificial species of unknown classification whose larvae have the ability to undergo metamorphoses into a form which is adapted for their environment. However, despite all adaptations, all specimens possess a tattoo-like set of markings on their underbelly reading data expunged, a Dr. Wondertainment trademark, and none will grow to over blank centimeters in length. Due to the powers of adaptation, it is unknown if the species has an original form, and if so, what it is. The eggs are 1 centimeter long flesh-toned ovoids which will only hatch if exposed to air. When packaged, they are stored under airtight plastic seals apparently for transport. The sections of unhatched eggs reveals them to simply contain a biological mucoid substance containing fragmentary DNA of unknown origin. As adult 1550 specimens appear to be sterile, it is unknown how the eggs are created. And then there's an experiment log. As subject, 1 egg was placed in a tank of seawater and allowed to hatch. It has gills along its upper back behind the eyes and flattened and broadened tails to serve as paddles for swimming, and produces specialized mucus to protect its eyes from salt damage. It has a swim bladder revealed upon dissection in its lower blank and data expunged. Note, skin coloration was also a mottled blue, presumably to blend in with the seawater. Dr. Blank. That's number 2. The egg was put in a tank of water taken from the river behind site somewhere, in which it was stored and allowed to hatch. Results: it possesses enlarged lungs and thinned body for increased streamlining. No gills? Apparently, it doesn't use the same adaptations for similar circumstances. That's somewhat odd. That's 3. The egg was put in a terrarium made to simulate a temperate forest ecosystem and allowed to hatch. It has a thin layer of brown fur covering the top of its body and a ridged snake-like underbelly as well as an enlarged tail tentacles. Notes: the ridges along 3's underbelly had a small oval patch of smooth skin on which the tattoo-like markings were located. The next test, it was placed in a terrarium made to simulate a desert and allowed to hatch. It was cold-blooded and has a tan coloration to camouflage against sand, as well as a tendency to burrow. The size was interesting, blank centimeters in length, about 1 centimeter larger than the other specimen. The next egg was placed in a terrarium made to simulate a standard city apartment. It has leathery skin, eyes on short stumps protruding from its head in a manner somewhat like the eyes of a chameleon, and was noted for behaving in a more affectionate and active manner to researchers than other specimens. The study revealed that behind the jaw and side are located strands of whale-like baleen, allowing the specimen to filter dust and crumbs from the floor. This egg was put in a vat of molten iron. The egg burst into flame and was destroyed. Well, what did you expect to happen? The egg was placed in a vacuum chamber, which was then depressurized. The egg exploded, coating the inside of the vacuum chamber and data expunged. It now seems obvious that the eggs cannot survive conditions besides that at which at least some sort of complex animal can live, so we might as well stop trying to make them do so. Okay, this test. The egg was placed in a vacuum chamber filled with seawater, which was then pressurized to 1086 bars, which is 15,750 psi, or psi, whatever. It possessed a bioluminescent lure similar to that of an anglerfish extending from its forehead, gills similar to one in dark gray-blue coloration. The legs were flattened and webbed into fish-like fins, and eyes were near twice the size of those on other specimens. Teeth were sharpened and possessed ridges to cut meat similar to those found in many species of shark. This leaves the question of just what kind of child Dr. Wondertainment is trying to sell these things to that would live in conditions where a creature like that could be kept as a pet. History. SCP-1550 was brought into containment after a series of 10 cardboard boxes printed with stylized images of 1550 specimens and the words Dr. Wondertainment's Custom Pets, each containing 6 eggs in separate airtight compartments, and a short instruction leaflet was found in the exotic pet section of the blank pet store. Upon interrogation of store workers, it was proven that none of them knew about it. Enclosed in the original packaging, "Hey kids, your parents aren't letting you get a dog or cat, don't fret. Buy a Dr. Wondertainment custom pet trademark. As a Dr. Wondertainment's custom pet is far superior to an ordinary or boring cat or dog to their original Adapto Eggs packaging. A Dr. Wondertainment invention. Just leave your custom pet trademark, Adapto Eggs trademark, around the house, and when they hatch, they'll fit right in. Perfect for apartments. To get your very own custom pets trademark is easy, kids. Just put an egg in your house and break the plastic seal to give your new pet some air so it can hatch. Your new pet will be perfect for where you live, wherever you live. Your new custom pet trademark seems lonely, just add another Adapto Egg trademark and get him a new friend. Warning for parents, please monitor your children's placement of Adapto Eggs trademark to prevent blank. Dr. Wondertainment is not responsible for injuries or death caused by this or any other product. Dr. Wondertainment custom pets trademark are shipped out prefixed, which I guess is why they're sterile. So it doesn't seem too bad. Like, I know that they go grab anything from Dr. Wondertainment, but usually if the Dr. Wondertainment product isn't safe for people, he'll send it to the Foundation himself or herself, since there was that one time where Dr. Funim I almost said Funimation. Give me his real name. Dr. Wondertainment. The factory caught him, killed him, and then a new one was born out of a lady. So I don't know at what point in the rest of the website it becomes that other Dr. Wondertainment, but anyway, next entry, which is the repeating house. It would be funny if it was the TV show, but it's probably not. All right, it's Euclid, whatever it is. Containment procedures. 2 agents are to integrate themselves in the town of somewhere in Argentina under civilian guise. They are to move into 12 Blank Street, a purchased house, in order to maintain constant surveillance of 1551. Any civilian coming within 30 meters of it are to be questioned, and if not found to be an instance of X, given Class C amnestic and released. New instances of X are to be interviewed for confirmation of having gone through the events associated with 1551 before being allowed into 1551. At this time, precautions against a resident leaving are not necessary. Description. SCP-1550, that's a lot of stuff. SCP-1551 is a house located somewhere in Argentina. It is associated with a repetitive sequence of events that target humans, causing them to eventually be forced by circumstance to live there. These humans are individually assigned a number so that the first known human under 1551 will be referred to as 1, the second is 2, the third is 3, and so on. When the previous human living dies, in the house that is, the sequence of events associated with 1551 repeats. According to reports dating as far back as 19-something, the events have repeated themselves 23 times, with the current individual being SCP-1551-23. Almost all iterations have begun with the previous individual's suicide, with the only exception being an accident from falling off the roof of 1551 during repairs. It used to say, the exact mechanism of these events are currently unknown, with multiple theories being discussed. See document 1551-1T for more information. That is crossed out now, and now it says, a tentative theory of the events associated have been established. See the addendum T for more detail. SCP-1551 appears as a house in an extremely dilapidated state. It used to say the building itself is not known to exhibit anomalous properties apart from those attributed to the events. That got crossed out. Research is ongoing. See interview log 23-2 for more detail. The house contains a kitchen, a living room, 3 bedrooms, and 2 bathrooms. That's a pretty good house. The house that has no functioning plumbing, not as good. Heating or electricity, very bad. The house itself only has basic furnishings, with the current 23 living primarily in the kitchen. 23 is a male of, I don't know how to say that, yeah, I'm not going to try. approximately 43 years of age. Spends all of his time attempting to repair the house. This task is impossible for a single person. The only time he is seen outside is to tend to the backyard garden, the only area of the property not in a state of gross disrepair. 23 is fully cooperative towards any Foundation personnel and has lived on the property for blank years, looks like single digit, the longest for any human that has lived there since coming into Foundation custody, the average being 3 months. Addendum T. Through multiple interviews with humans who have lived in 1551 and the collaborative efforts of Dr. Someone, Dr. Somebody Else, and Dr. Third Person, a tentative theory has been established of the sequence of events associated with 1551. The sequence is theorized to accommodate minor variations in the circumstance and temperament of each instance. This theory states that the purpose of the events is to force a human into a position where occupying SCP-1551 and attempting to repair it unaided is the only option. The sequence comprises two parts. Initially, the events place the subject in a situation of relative prosperity. Subsequently, this prosperity is taken away. The general process of the events associated are as follows. The first part of the events typically involves moving the targeted human instance to blank blank, usually through an offer of work. At this point, if the targeted human was close with their family, they have a misunderstanding which causes them to no longer be on speaking terms. The instance eventually meets and marries a resident somewhere of this place. If the couple is fertile, they will have a child before part 2 begins. The second part of the sequence begins with the spouse of the targeted human leaving them. The spouse typically takes most of their wealth. Either shortly before or shortly after, the subject will lose their job and become unable to maintain their current standard of living. At this point, they are informed of 1551, which, if repaired, could be bought cheaply and resold for an extremely high price. The targeted human purchases the property over the option of homelessness. If they have any money left, their remaining savings will go towards hiring construction crews, which invariably fail for a wide variety of reasons, such as fraud, freak accidents, and sudden bankruptcy of the construction company. Once remaining funds are exhausted, they will move into 1551 themselves and attempt to repair it alone. At this point, the sequence is considered complete until the death of the instance, initiating another iteration. And then there's interview logs translated from Spanish. And they're interviewing the guy who's living there, and the interviewer is Dr. J someone. Please state your name for the record. It's blank blank. What do you people want? I already have enough to take care of. Calm down. Answer our questions and we'll let you go. Fine. Tell me how you came to blank blank. It's pretty far away from where you're from, right? You speak with an accent. Yes, I'm from blank. I was looking for work overseas, got this job offer. Since I already spoke with, I don't know what language it's supposed to be, or accent. I already spoke with some of the language, and they told me I didn't need an interview. I went on over. I worked in manual labor. It was a hard job, but it paid well. What are you doing owning such a house? There's some apartments closer to town. I said was. I'm not working anymore. The company went bankrupt a little while ago. Tried to start a hotel business, but stopped because of other matters. Explain. Do you want every facet of my life? Just answer the question and we'll let you go. This is all confidential. I met a pretty girl while working. Her name was blank blank. We dated and got married when times were good. Had a baby, beautiful little boy. We named him Matthew. Then one day she woke up and our little Matthew was he wasn't here anymore. Taken? If by stolen you mean taken by God, you thick-headed bastard! My Matthew was dead and she blamed me! Me! I would never have harmed him. She left me, took half my savings with her, ran off with some rich asshole. I don't even have enough money to hire a crew for this house anymore. Now leave me alone. Thank you, that'll be all. It said yell. This interview was initially to question 23 about his experiences in 1551, a year after initial interview. So, tell me about your house. Old, probably a century, maybe more. I didn't do the research. Hey, do your goons stash food or anything around for me? Especially that man snooping around, the one with the kind smile. Thanks, I appreciate it. Go into more detail. Don't play dumb with me. Sometimes I find food in crevices, non-perishable canned stuff. Sometimes I can warm them. Other times I just open them and eat cold. At first I thought it was just the previous person who lived here forgot to move out with the food. Then I keep finding food in places. Old shelves I was repairing would happen to have some canned soup tucked in the back. I just explore that cluttered attic and find another stash of food. Not enough to keep me full, but it's enough to keep me alive. I appreciate it. Note, every agent that has been on duty around 23 has denied this claim. The entity further specified does not match the description of any agent on current roster for 23. A possible anomalous activity is currently undergoing investigation. Is there anything else unusual you find while working on your house? Unusual? Well, it's a pretty old house. There's not like any ghosts you mentioned or something. Place gets me down though. Every time I feel like I'm going to quit this place and get my act together, something comes along and knocks the wind right out of me. Just the other day, I found a newspaper about that bastard and his fat new government contract. Who exactly? That guy the whore ran off to after stealing my savings. Who else? Anyway, I didn't feel like doing much after anything else that day. I just sat around the house and looked at my lists. Thank you. That will be all. End notes. As a result of this interview, investigations of the potential for anomalous properties manifested by 1551 have been launched as of whatever date that is. Information can be found in document I. There is not a document I, so I guess that's it for this house. When was this last updated? 3.5 years ago? Yeah, I don't think we're going to get more information. Next up is the dog that loves close-up. Who loves close-ups? Not that. Who. It's safe though. SCP-1552's enclosure has been designed to minimize reflectivity. The room's observation deck is off limits. Personnel entering the enclosure should be fully briefed, and no more than one person should be present inside the enclosure concurrently. A calibrated glossometer is to be kept on hand. No object with surfaces over 95 gloss units should be brought into the enclosure. Instances of 1 are to be kept in storage with level 2 access. SCP-1552 requires water and a food appropriate for its breed. Water is to be served only in the provided dispenser, which is operated by remote control and should be opened only after personnel have left the room. Toys should be provided on a regular basis. Personnel should carefully examine the toys before provision to ensure they have no reflective surfaces. It used to say feeding and cleaning duties should be undertaken by disposable dudes whenever possible, but it says now 1 is to be inventoried periodically and checked for damage to the paint covering. I guess I just crossed that out entirely. It may not be removed from the facility without level 4 clearance and is to be considered a major security risk. Description: SCP-1552 is a male English bulldog in good health which responds to the name Tarkin. As far as researchers can ascertain, it is approximately 3 to 5 years old. At the time of containment, Tarkin was not microchipped. Tissue samples have revealed no genetic variation outside that expected for its breed. At the time of writing, 1 consists of approximately 257 separate items comprising 13 hand mirrors, 4 bathroom mirrors, 3 car and motorcycle mirrors, 2 pieces of chrome motorcycle chassis, 6 pieces of car chassis, a dog collar with a vacuum metallicized plastic name tag bearing the name Tarkin, 1,675 milliliters of water currently stored in a sealed plastic container, 52 miscellaneous office fixtures, and 175 separate glass fragments of varying size. At the time of writing, 250 items have been covered with matte black paint. Each instance of 1 displays a live close-up of 1552's face, regardless of where it is located relative to 1552. Reflection is, as far as can be established, permanent. Even if an instance of 1 is forcibly fragmented, its fragments will each continue to reflect a close-up of the dog. That each instance of 1 currently displays a live feed of an active SCP Foundation facility, albeit one partially obscured by 1552, has not been overlooked. Attempts to find a means of safely neutralizing instances of 1 are ongoing. I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Any reflective surface with a gloss index of 95 or higher is subject to transformation into 1 under the following conditions. 1552 must be reflected in the surface. An independent observer must observe the surface with the intent of viewing the reflection of 1552. Following this, the entire reflective surface becomes an instance of 1. The observer effect that creates 1 only applies if the surface is viewed directly. Any mechanical remove, such as CCTV, live or not, nullifies the effect. There is no detectable molecular change to the material after turning into 1, though spectroscopic analysis reveals that it absorbs light as though it were a perfect black body. As 1 shows no anomalous thermodynamic qualities, it can be concluded that this light is re-emitted as the footage of 1552. The footage in 1 is capable of creating instances of 1 and its reflection if reserved in another object. If an observer views an uncontaminated reflective surface with the intent of seeing the reflection of 1, the surface will also become 1. 1552 does not seem to be able to control the footage reflected in 1 and has been rendered unconscious without compromising its effect. However, while it is unconscious as opposed to merely sleeping, some observers have reported a vertigo-like feeling emanating from the reflection. Mechanical recordings during this time show no measurable change, indicating more research is needed into possible psychic manifestations of this phenomena. That one shows more active tendencies when 1552 is unconscious seems to militate against euthanization of the animal. Okay, that's what I was going to say, but I didn't want to say it. It may be possible to utilize 1552 as an emergency warning system should Sector 25 experience a major incident that renders communication with other facilities otherwise impossible. As far as can be ascertained, the transmission of footage to 1 is unblockable and has no range limit. Although it appears impossible to impose a surface between one's camera and 1552's face, 1552's head does not normally fit the whole image broadcast to 1, and textual information could be readily broadcast from behind the animal. Contingency plans have been drafted to dispatch samples of 1 to other Foundation facilities. These would need to be monitored via CCTV. Recovery log. The properties were brought to the Foundation's attention when it was involved in a major traffic accident at somewhere. 1552 was apparently being walked by its previous owner, an unidentified male who was killed in the crash. A driver passed 1552, then looked in his wing mirror to get a better view of the animal. The wing mirror was predictably transformed into 1. The driver, startled by the appearance of the face, drove the car across the width of the road, flipping another car and causing 2 others to spin out of control, and into a shop window, which at some point in the incident also became an instance of 1. The Foundation was contacted by local law enforcement when they noticed the fragments of the window continued to display a reflection of 1552 even after it was removed from the scene by animal services. At the time of writing, all but 0.049 meters squared of the shop window has been successfully recovered. 5 grams of finely ground glass were also recovered after an operative was dispatched to vacuum the street and remove sediment from storm drains at the crash site. This has since been fused into a single specimen of 1 for ease of containment. A small budget has been allocated to tracing other items that may have been converted into 1 before containment. Addendum 1. It has been established that liquids with adequate surface reflectivity are not exempt from conversion into 1. Accordingly, the possibility of contaminated liquids entering the water cycle is a distinct risk. It will be necessary to determine whether water transformed into 1 is potable, as the worst case scenario involving 1 is full conversion of the world's oceans and subsequently fresh water supply. It used to say that effective immediately the dog was reclassified as Euclid, but further experimentation with Tarkin and liquid are forbidden. The water bowl is to be sealed and automatically opened only when personnel have left its room. Other liquids are forbidden in the room without the permission of sector management. Tests on disposable dues have shown that 1 is non-toxic and shows no inherent contamination ability. Dilution results in the footage becoming fainter before disappearing completely at 1 to 2 parts water. Note that no method currently exists of separating out contaminated and uncontaminated liquids. As with 1 solids covered in paint, diluted 1 is not considered neutralized. Incident Report 1. Is this going to be why disposable dudes can't go in there anymore? As a part of experiments into the transmittability, 2 disposable dudes were admitted into the enclosure. 1 was instructed to... Okay, this is exactly what I was expecting the problem to be. 1 was instructed to observe Tarkin via the reflection in the other's eyes. As expected, the latter subject's eyes became instances of 1. Unexpectedly, the subject retained full vision, presumably linked to the black body properties of 1552. Subject reacted poorly when informed of the effects of the experiment and attempted to abscond from the facility. Since the contaminated subject was able to view a reflection of Tarkin in any reflective surface they encountered, they were quickly able to spread 1 to the eyes of other disposable dudes and Agent Blank, in addition to numerous surfaces throughout the facility. Lockdown was established almost immediately and full containment restored after an hour and a half. After consultation with O5, the decision was made to remove the agent's eyes. The surgeon was able to successfully complete the procedure via a mechanical remove, and the agent will receive full compensation. The 5 contaminated disposable dudes have been terminated in line with Foundation protocol as extreme security risks. As a result of incident blank 1, use of disposable dudes with 1552 is suspended. Suitably briefed researchers and veterinary personnel will be allowed to enter Tarkin's enclosure to engage in feeding and other duties. Addendum 2. The classification has been downgraded to safe owing to the persistent success of updated containment procedures. I was pretty much immediately going to say, what happens if it reflects in someone's eyes, though? But I decided not to say it, and I'm glad I did since it came up in the entry. Tarkin is a good boy, I guess. And next up is Dr. Wondertainment's Shadow Paint playset. Shadow Paint? It's safe. Whatever Shadow Paint is. Packages of SCP-1553 are to be contained in high-value storage lockers. Specific one at number 227 at Research Site 14. Experimentation is to take place exclusively in White Lab 2. The lab shall be equipped with recessed halogen flood lamps, an overhead projector, two high-intensity flashlights, a table, and an auto-locking door operated remotely. All walls are to be painted flat white annually and cleaned weekly by maintenance staff. No windows or light controls are accessible from within the lab. Only translucent or transparent equipment and furniture will be allowed to enter White Lab 2 unless authorized for experimentation purposes. All additional equipment must be removed and all instances of 1 or 2 must be terminated at the conclusion of each test. As of Incident 2, no instances will be allowed to persist activity for greater than 8 hours. White Lab 2 is to be kept under 24-hour remote video surveillance and remain illuminated for 3 days following any experimentation. In the event of any anomalous shadow activity, lighting failure within the lab, or unauthorized opening of the lab door during this period, containment breaches to be assumed. The hallways to be sealed, and Protocol 12, Trundholm, is initiated. Why is Dr. Wondertainment a link this time? Okay, just goes to the hub. Description. Manufacturer's packaging identifies SCP-1553 as Dr. Wondertainment Shadow Paint playset. Each package is packaged in a blue and green shrink-wrapped cardboard box with black lettering, dimensions 15 by 22 by 22 centimeters. Contents include 2 quarts of a translucent viscous black fluid, A, and a white plastic bucket labeled shadow paint, 1 white foam sponge, dimensions 3 by 10 by 20 centimeters, B, with embossed label shadow eraser, a non-anomalous number 18 painter's brush, manufacturer's document booklet, see document C. To date, 10 instances have been discovered in the United States, 3 in Canada, and 5 in the European Union. Interrogation determined in all cases that store employees, managers, and regional executives had no knowledge of the presence or properties of 1553. Efforts to locate additional instances are ongoing. When applied to any illuminated surfaces, A will dry completely, leaving no residue. Says a minimum brightness of 3 lux is required for A to dry and anomalous properties to manifest. In its place, the surface will then display an anomalous shadow object, designated 1. Instances maintain the form painted by A and are capable of interacting with any shadow, anomalous or otherwise, via direct contact. If A is used to depict an animal or humanoid, the image will spontaneously animate upon drying, creating an instance of 2. These instances will display intelligence, physical ability, and behavior appropriate to their form. This will only animate if depicted as a solid, uninterrupted silhouettes. 2 requires no sustenance to survive, but will partake of food-based instances of 1 if any are available. Researchers requesting permission to test humanoid or dangerous instances of 2 are reminded to review Incident Report 2 and consider the experimental parameters very carefully. Hopefully that incident report is here. It's rare that Dr. Wondertainment things are straight up dangerous, so this should be interesting. The properties, mannerisms, and abilities of 1 and 2 vary significantly from one instance to the next, and are closely linked with the intentions, temperament, beliefs, and attitudes of the user. However, all instances do share certain qualities in common. The projections will... I thought I heard something. The projections will always interact as though they are discrete 3-dimensional physical objects, despite existing solely as 2-dimensional silhouettes. All instances have the ability to loom or grow in relation to the surface on which they exist by moving interaction field towards their primary light source. It says one's field of interaction will behave according to the beliefs of the user, with the original user's belief taking precedent over other observers. 2 has demonstrated the ability to determine its own position relative to actual objects, which does not always correspond well with Euclidean topology. Users are universally able to experience the properties of the interaction field through touch and sound, although no sound caused by 1553 has ever been recorded, and no physical object responsible for shadows designated 1 or 2 can be verified. I've only just realized I forgot to put up the little representation of myself who's supposed to be talking while I do these. It's way too late to care about that now, so whatever. Application of B directly to any shadow, anomalous or otherwise, can results in the shadow's immediate disappearance. Neutralization of 1 and 2 can be achieved via mere shadow contact with B, leaving non-anomalous shadows intact. To date, no other method has been found effective to neutralize the effects of A, and research attempting to reproduce this effect is ongoing. If B is used to erase the shadow of a real object, the region affected will lose opacity within 30 seconds. Observers describe such objects as appearing simultaneously visible and invisible. After approximately 5 minutes, the region will lose its ability to interact physically with normal objects. In inanimate objects, the effect can be easily reversed by liberal application of A on any nearby surface. However, in living subjects, the process can result in significant injury if not treated immediately. See experiments 37 and 38 for more details. Well, here's document C. Forward. Copied below are the English text portions of the manufacturer's documentation for SCP-1553, Dr. Wondertainment Shadow Paint playset. Documentation also includes several pictorial representations and suggestions accompanying the text. Hey kids! Say goodbye to sidewalk chalk. It's Dr. Wondertainment's Alright Reserve Shadow Paint playset. Simply apply the patented Shadow Paint formula to any surface where light is cast and watch the fun come to life. Thanks to Animagic Nation trademark technology, the only limit to your creation is your own imagination. Whole shadow kingdoms can rise and fall before your very eyes. Scare your younger siblings with gigantic shadow monsters. Touch your shadow toys and play with them as though they're really trademarked there. Why is the word really trademarked? Don't worry, Mom and Dad. Cleanup is super easy with the miraculous Shadow Eraser. Just wave the eraser over the play area and you're done. For those hard to reach spots, just rub Shadow Eraser gently over a surface and watch the shadows disappear like magic. Guaranteed. Be careful, very careful. You wouldn't want to erase a real shadow by mistake. Warning. Remember the shadow creatures are as friendly or dangerous as you imagine them to be. Do not attempt to draw real trademark people using Shadow Paint playset trademark. Dr. Wondertainment is not responsible for injury, discomfort, or existential crisis resulting from misuse of Shadow Paint playset trademark. Addendum 2. Low light photography has confirmed that below the critical brightness of 3 lux, instances of 1 and 2 are undetectable as surface-bound silhouettes, but can be modeled as quasi-physical objects of size and shape appropriate to their form in brighter conditions. The effect persists until such time as ambient lighting conditions expose instances to brightness 3 lux or greater. Though the field of interaction can be mapped with a sonographic imaging, it is at present impossible to confirm whether or not a fundamentally physical object exists in this region, as all other scanning equipment available relies on non-visible light wavelengths to render an image, and these negate the effect. Experiment log, abridged. Okay, so there's going to be a few of them before it gets to the dangerous ones, if the dangerous ones are even in here. So, Test 1. Disposable 53 or 4310 instructed to use A to depict a claw hammer using a stencil. Reported an instance of feeling light, plastic, and fake. One was ineffective at driving the nail provided and broke after 2 strikes. Instance neutralized. Subject instructed to repeat the procedure while imagining a useful hammer. Reported new instances being very heavy, with a handle having the texture of hard rubber. One successfully drove the nail in 3 strikes. Okay, experiment 12. That was experiment 5. This is experiment 12. Agent Somebody F instructed to depict a Beretta 92 service pistol using the stencil provided and given access to 5 disposable dudes scheduled for termination. By Agent F's knowledge of firearms and intent to make a working weapon, one fails to function effectively. Subjects report a stinging sensation similar to being shot with a paintball or BB gun and suffer no visible injuries. Long-term observation reveals no negative effects. Note: solve the machine problem with knowledge, but the weapons problem seems to be universal. I think we've learned about all we can. We learned all we can about 1 for now. Let's move on. Now they look at the effects of 2. 4330 instructed to depict a cat using the stencil provided. It manifests upon drying and immediately retreats to the opposite corner of the room. 4330 successfully coaxes 2 out of the corner and reports furry textures and warmth and tactile sensations. They also report hearing a purring sound as he pets 2, although no audio is recorded. Instance continues interacting in a friendly manner until 4330 attempts to pick it up, at which point it scratches and bites the subject, causing him to drop it. Instance terminated. Note: 4330 was admitted to the on-site infirmary with reports of numbness in his hand where 2 had scratched and bitten him. Treated for minor skin infection and released. Recommend we start scaling things up to see if we can make smarter and larger instances. That seems like a terrible idea, and we're about to find out why. Test 37. D5001 instructed to erase part of his shadow and report the effects. The subject initially unnerved, but becomes mildly amused, erasing greater and greater portions of shadow in the lower abdominal region. Reports a slight tingling sensation followed by lightheadedness. Researchers report a semi-transparent quality to the abdomen, followed by a barely visible network of dark red colors resembling blood vessels and capillaries. 4 minutes following exposure to the region loses coherency, causing significant biohazard cleanup in White Lab 2. Terminated. Affected region remains suspended in midair until A is applied to the wall where its shadow would normally fall. A instantly dries and the excised portion again becomes subject to gravity. Remains display no further anomalous properties and are incinerated. Test 38. 5002 instructed to erase her shadow in its entirety. The subject is at first reluctant, but complies, erasing her entire shadow within 1.25 minutes. 2 reports no initial negative effects apart from feeling chilly. 29 seconds following erasure, subject begins to fade, becoming translucent. After 5.5 minutes, the subject's voice is no longer audible. 2 signals that she is unable to hear, although she continues to move about freely, is still able to see, and appears to breathe normally. Subject demonstrates the ability to move through solid objects within laboratory and attempts to breach containment. Unable to restrain subject via conventional means, lighting in White Lab 2 extinguished by researcher G. They used to be a junior, but they've been, uh, what's the word? Promoted. Causing data expunged. 5002 terminated and biohazard cleanup crews dispatched. It appears that erasing the shadow of an extant object has the opposite effect of painting a shadow where no object exists. Recommend some further research to determine applications in intelligence/counterintelligence operations. You had someone erase their shadow and they tried to walk through a wall. What intelligence do you possibly think you can get from this? Unless they bring this stuff with them, they wouldn't be able to come back. Might not even want to. You're going to just end up with a replay of the Hollow Man movie. And we don't need that. Now it's time for the Damaged Fellowship and to see if it's talking about a copy of the book or not. Let's see. SP-1554 upon discovery with A1 in foreground. Note the attached tag, photograph taken by Agent Emma Taylor, who leads to Emma Taylor Books. It's safe though. SCP-1554 is to be kept in a fireproof safe class storage locker, Site 629's Anomalous Media Wing. Testing is to be conducted under supervision of Dr. Walters, and all instances of A produced are to be stored on a case-by-case basis. Viable biological specimens are to be kept in Site 629's greenhouse. All fauna created from A is to be euthanized, dissected, and incinerated following testing. Models produced by A may be displayed in the archival wing, provided they are not hostile in nature. Inanimate objects are to be disposed of on a case-by-case basis following inspection. All metallic objects are to be melted down and converted into scrap. All testing is to occur in a room with a waterless fire extinguishing system. No flame tests are to be carried out on 1554 under any circumstances. Description: SCP-1554 is a copy of the book The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Called it. Published in 1969 by Somebody Press. It is in very poor condition for its age, with several pages being marked with pen, pencil, and crayon, moderate water damage to later chapters, and the entirety of the chapter in the House of Tom Bombadil being missing, just like the movie. Being by itself, 1554 will gravitate to the nearest flat, dry surface and will stand on end, opening itself to the first undamaged page. The act of damaging any pages in any way produces an instance of A. A are items that form themselves out of a page of 1554 that has been damaged in some way. The instance varies depending on the type of damage caused to the book. Water damage typically produces quasi-biological specimens. Tearing out pages produces small, often autonomous sculptures depicting scenery and character from the book. And marking on pages produces inanimate, usually damaged, objects such as clothing or weaponry. Finally, burning the pages causes a sudden gravitational shift of approximately blank G's in a random direction, invariably resulting in severe injuries and major damage to all individuals and objects within a 5-meter radius of the book, including the book itself. Typically, gravitational anomalies will continue until it is extinguished. Addendum: log of tests performed. The front was damaged. An X was drawn on the front cover using a felt tip pen. No reaction. Prologue concerning pipeweed, page 8, of application of 5 milliliters of water to the passage. A4 is a species of Nicotiana resembling Nicotiana rustica. Analysis shows that A4 has a relatively low concentration of nicotine. Upon incineration, a large quantity of smoke was produced, described as smelling vaguely sweet and homely. Then they used page 27 of a long expected party by crossing out a passage using a number 2 pencil. The damaged page was converted into A10, a large rocket-type firework. It was disposed of in a nearby bomb disposal range due to the possibility of damage to the casing causing instability. It was detonated with no anomalous effects. Book 2, Chapter 5, The Bridge of Khazad-dûm. Carrying out page 265. A21 was an animate model of what is believed to be the Balrog encountered in this chapter. It was on fire at the time of emergence and was quickly extinguished to prevent damage to the book. Extinguishing resulted in a formation of 15 new A instances due to moisture damage. Waterless fire extinguisher system installed after the test. Incident 7. 1554 was ignited due to a cigarette lighter being smuggled into the testing chamber by D7, a known pyromaniac. Following this, they were thrown against the northern wall of the testing unit and reported severe difficulty moving and breathing as the book continued to burn. 7 was ordered to smother the flames by rolling over 1554, but was unable to comply due to the strength of the gravitational force. Fire extinguishing system activated. 7 expired due to a lack of oxygen in the testing chamber. Addendum. The following document was found written on the back of 1554's original catalog card in the blank university library. The card was attached to a length of string intended for use as a bookmark. Right, enough of this. Enough of you lot tearing out bits and pieces of this work. I've had it with you lot tearing up Tolkien's work. You simply don't understand the man. He's a gift to English literature, and if you ruin one more fucking page, there will be consequences. The more you destroy, the more you shall create. Words are art. Respect them. And this doesn't seem to be tied into anything. It's just, I guess somebody with magic was really sick of this shit. And that's going to do it for this episode. Next time we'll be checking out Facility, Mist Horses, Giraffe Hell, Snuff Tower, and Bird Soul in Your House. I hope Snuff Tower is talking about that weird tobacco stuff my grandma used to use, because otherwise this episode is going to be difficult. If you like this one, though, a like and subscribe will be groovy. If you want to click the bell, you can do that as well so that you're notified of future uploads, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Later!